Okay, we are going to start project number 1 with the air conditioning portion of this class here. So just to give you a little bit of a rundown, the projects are made up of the 19 main fittings plus the seams that we're going to start with first of all here. So the first seam that we're going to complete today is the groove lock seam, and there's some important things in here. And at the end of it, we're going to measure the piece, and it should measure 6 inches by 6 inches square after we assemble it. We're going to utilize the 3/8 of an inch. Don't worry about the 1/4 inch here. Nothing has really changed with that. But the tolerance is important. We're going to go plus or minus the 1/16 of an inch is what you're going to be graded on. So the groove lock seam is project number 1. And if we turn the page in our book to page 3 here, we look and we see that we need 2 pieces that measure 6 inches in width by 3 9/16 wide. So there's a left hand piece and a right hand piece for this particular project. So I've taken the time to cut those pieces, and with a tape measure you're going to measure them. Again, there'll be 6 inches. And I see that one's already over and it needs to be recut. And this one is 3 9/16 with that one. Let's see how we did with this one here. 3 9/16 by 6 inches in width. I'm going to use them anyway for our demonstration purposes, but they should measure exactly 6 by 3 9/16 in order to complete the project properly. And I'll turn the book here so you can kind of see the numbers we're looking at. We've got a left-hand piece and a right-hand piece. What we need to do with that is we need to scribe some marks down each side. 3/8 of an inch in, and then another 3/16, or rather the 9/16 mark. The 9/16 mark really isn't that important. You don't have to have it there. The brake will actually take care of it. So we can just take our scribe, this particular tool here. This is a scratch-all. This is a scribe, as I call it. Some people may have a different name for it. And we're going to scribe, if you look down the side here, we got a 3/8 inch depth, a 5/16 depth, 1/4, 3/16, and 1/8 this direction. And if we turn it around, so you can read it, this direction you would have a 1/2 inch mark, a 5/8, 3/4, 7/8, and an inch mark. But today we're looking at the 3/8 per the plans, so we're going to set that up. It's the top portion of the scribe here, and we'll draw that line on that piece of sheet metal. And I don't know if you can see that, but I'll try to point it out in the camera there. There's a little bit of a scribe mark in there. If you can't see them, sometimes you can take a Sharpie and just mark the corners, keeping your metal as clean as possible, and hide those marks. So hopefully you can see that right in that area. And so that the left one is complete. Now we'll do that same thing to the right one with the same 3/8 inch scribe. Sometimes this can be a little bit challenging, so if you like, you can put it on the edge of the table and pull it towards yourself, etc. Like so. This one here is actually completed. This is what our goal is, to have 2 pieces with one side that's completely smooth, and then just the seam on the inside of the duct there. So that's our goal at the end. So let's set that one aside right now. Now that I've got my 2 3/8 inch marks set, you'll see on the plans that I've got these hidden lines drawn. Now those are not exactly bend lines, but they will be taken up later when we put them into the brake to make this pinch lock on the fitting. So if you want, you can mark them on the inside. It doesn't matter a whole lot. But let's go on to the next page. The next page of the drawing, it is telling us that we're going to take each of our pieces and we're going to bend them to the 3/8 marks to at least a 45 degree. So if this piece is sitting like this one is going to sit like this, and we're going to bend them around. So let's go ahead and do that now. The 3 9/16 dimension, don't worry about them too much. We're mainly focused on the 3/8 inch dimension from our originals. I believe that is a typo, the 3 9/16. So let's go ahead and do this. So we're going to come over here to the brake. And if you'll notice, some of these brakes, as you get closer to the edges, they feel looser than in the centers or different portions, mainly because of wear and tear on the equipment. This one's not too bad, but it is showing some age there. So that scribe mark that we placed originally with our scribe, that 3/8, if you look at that, that's where we're actually going to line that particular part up. Yes, this one's a little bit loose here, so let's slide down to the center where it's a little bit tighter in the piece here. In this particular brake, most of them have a 1/2 inch apron. This one has a 3/8, and we're going to bend that on the 3/8 all the way over. So bring that up and back down, and then loosen the... And then let's do the same with the second piece. So again, on the 3/8 mark, just like the other piece, and we're going to pull that around to where it belongs. At this point, going back to our plans, we've got the 2 pieces minus the 9/16, which needs to be addressed. And hopefully will be soon. On the next fitting, down here, it's telling you to take the 2 pieces that we just made and fabricated, and now we're going to assemble them. We're going to take the 2 connecting points and hook them together so they are placed on the diagram like that. Again, don't pay attention to the dimensions. They're just giving you some demonstration purposes. The next page tells us to take the seam, and we're actually going to close it. So we got it set up like this here, and we're going to put it back in our apron brake there, and we're going to close them down up on each other. So it's a little bit of a challenge. You got to kind of keep that back one taut into each other, and we'll slide that back. So we're going to slip it in there. If you can't get it open close enough like here, then you need to go down to the edge. Before I close it, I want to make sure the edges are lined up and the piece is not out of the connection. So we're going to push that back there. So we'll set it in just past, and then without pinching our fingers, we're going to close that seam. Maybe better than that, but we're going to make an attempt to close that seam on itself. Some of this, so that's fairly close, but you can see that it's still loose. So that's where if you go to the center portion of some of these brakes, you can actually tighten them up a little bit more. And you can reach from the back of them as well if you're having troubles, and hold that piece. And then close that down, and you'll notice this time that it's still loose slightly, but it's considerably better than it has been in the past. We can maybe try it one more time closer to the edge on each end. Something of that sort. Notice I had to pull that back apart too, but that's a lot better than it has been in the previous attempts there. We don't want to have any gaps in there, so we want to make sure that's taut and tight together, because at the end of the project we're looking for that 6-inch final dimension between the 2 fittings, and we're just slightly over, and that would be correct because we need to make one more bend on this particular part. So if you'll notice right now we've got basically 2 hooks in that part up there, and the plans say the bottom side or the outside of the piece needs to be completely flat. So what we're going to do is we're going to put this edge, the back edge, in the brake from the top down, and we're going to crush that and bend that around there. And I'll show you how to do that now. So remember, we cannot put it right directly on that line because that seam is actually set back 3/8 of an inch, which is the width of this apron of this brake. So if you can see this, when I tighten that down, it has a tendency to pull it up slightly. So we're going to help that along just ever a little bit with the apron. And then with your sheet metal hammer, we're just going to tap that back down. Making the best attempt not to hit the apron of the brake and just tap on the metal material itself. Other things we're looking for is trying not to put any dents in that particular piece. So let's check this out. If you'll notice now, the back side is completely flat. Back over here at the plans, just like it is supposed to be, and it locks it in there even tighter than it was before. We cannot slide it out. So that should take care of it. Again, the gap, they're looking for 3/8 of an inch, and that works out. Again, you're plus or minus a 1/16, and you're looking at the 6-inch portion, and this one is just slightly over just about an 1/8 inch over on that particular part. Same with the width. So check your numbers, make sure you don't just measure them freehand or anything of that sort, but that is project number 1. And if you need some more, there's just a perspective view of that particular groove lock seam, looking how your dimensions are supposed to be 6 inches in width on both directions after the final product. And that will bring us up to project number 2. If you like this, let me know.